When you think of horror, you might be thinking of classic horror films like Halloween or the Chucky movie series. You might be thinking of blood, guts, gruesome deaths, jump scares, or other disturbing imagery that makes you jump in your seat. This is horrific for sure, but it oftentimes overlooks the plot of a story and can be considered a cheap tactic to scare your audience. Hi, I'm Charis, and we'll be taking a close look on how to write horror effectively for any kind of media. We'll discuss methods, tips, and a few exceptions that will allow an engaging and horrific experience without the need for guts and galore. Who knows, the plot might be just as scary as the next jump scare. Boo! The first thing to consider is not how to scare your audience, but what makes your story horrifying, which boils down to the basics. How are you, the viewer, viewing this story, and what type of ending do you want to have? There are two types of viewing experiences I found in many classic and indie horror medias. 1. The experiencer. The experiencer is essentially you as the audience viewing in the eyes of the protagonist, such as the Blair Witch Project's limited omniscient view. But you can also be in the first-person perspective by becoming part of the world, such as horror analog The Mandela Catalog, telling the story in the form of events happening in a world you, as the character, would live in. The blend between the two can include characters with a predetermined background, but with the name you choose for yourself, or using I statements, making it personal to you as the audience. 2. The viewer. The viewer generally consists watching events unfold from an outsider's perspective. Many horror films feature this type of viewing experience and properly keep you on your toes by the anticipation of what's to come. Tactics to achieve this will be brought up in a little bit. When figuring out how to end your story, it comes down to 3 different options: tragedy, relief, and open end. These ends are popularly used but can be mixed together. First, tragedy. The story ends with everyone you know throughout the story dying, with casualties, or with the premise that the characters did not leave their shortcoming unscathed. However, this does not mean the characters are completely miserable and could end on a note where the characters are seeking help or moving on with their life, which leads into our next category. Second, relief. This ending is anything that gives the viewers relief when characters are saved from close disaster situations, such as the killer about to kill the protagonist, but before they can land the blow, the secondary character comes in and stops the killer's actions, allowing the protagonist to escape. This can also be a resolution to events where a character is content with being alive or finding safety after surviving such a horrible incident. This feeling can also be present in video games where, for example, Poppy's Playtime Chapter 1, a character named Huggy Wuggy chases you through the vents, and with quick thinking, you make it fall to its doom. This allows you to feel at ease, knowing you are no longer being chased, giving you a chance to relax. Lastly, open end. This ending is most often than not the most popular version to end in any kind of horror. It leaves it up to the viewer's interpretation with what happens next, and imagination is a crucial key to horror. It's like a cliffhanger without ever knowing the end. It can leave people feeling uneasy, but at the same time, it allows viewers to think what could happen next, given any context prior to the ending. This can range from a killer reviving from the dead, that was soon followed with a sequel, plot twists, and/or questions left unanswered after the death or survival of a character. Talking about character. Aside from understanding the viewer experience and how you like to go about your plot, the meat of your story are your characters. Not only would they provoke the type of mood, tone, and emotion we'll feel throughout their journey, but also how we, as the viewers, are viewing the world the characters are living in, and even anchor your audience into the story as they feel sympathy towards your protagonists. In Studio Binder's How to Create a TV Character and Develop Their Arc, they use the 5 W's method: who, what, when, where, why, and how. This method is a great way to create a character for any form of media, including horror. To simplify even further, you'd want to focus on your character's purpose, personality, and relationship with other characters. A character's purpose can explain why that character is in the predicament they are in. Whether we find out later in the story or it's immediately revealed to us in the beginning, it's what helps set a tone, setting, and mood for the story. A character's personality is a crucial part of manipulating how your viewers feel towards that character. Do you want your audience to be sympathetic towards that character? Make that character fragile and vulnerable. Do you want your audience to seek justice with the character? Make the character feel vengeful and justified. How a character is like and revealed can make or break the plot of the story. No one likes a character who is unrelatable nor contradictory to their own beliefs. So, it's important to make your character consistent unless given otherwise, such as villains who befriends others to benefit themselves in the end. Now, how is their relationship with other characters? This might be similar to a character's personality topic-wise, however, it'll help establish who your characters are wary of, and if you should be as well. If a character is suspicious of another, you as the audience will also be suspicious of that other character. Oftentimes, it can even work as a plot twist when the audience and the character find out that the one they were suspicious of was not even the threat, and in fact, was someone else. It's a tricky process, but plausible to do. With all that said and done, we now know what we want and what reaction we're seeking from our audience. We also know how to easily provoke the emotions of our audience and their involvement through our characters. It's time to move on to strategies that makes the story juicy. When writing horror, there are several different tactics that are all subject to change, depending on the timing and how you want the audience to feel. Referencing Victoria Smith and how to make your writing suspenseful, the few tips are limiting a viewer's knowledge, dramatic irony, pacing, and tension. Similarly, to finding out the perspective you'd like your story to be formatted as, limiting a viewer's knowledge plays into both the viewer and experiencer roles by showing little bits of information at a time as the story progresses. It also involves allowing the audience to use their imagination, which is a keen aspect to suspenseful situations. This involves not knowing what the threat in question looks like or knowing what their next move is. An example would be in the book Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, where as the story progresses, we and the protagonist begin to realize what really happened to Rebecca and the cause of her disappearance. This can also fall into dramatic irony, where the story can foreshadow key secrets the audience knows about but not yet the character, or reveals a metaphor or symbol that would be important later in the story. The best example is Oedipus Rex, where you know the tragedy that befalls Rex, only to watch him descend into madness when he soon finds out himself. Often, we will see drawn-out scenes before a jump scare, or rapid cuts as the protagonist is running from something unknown. This is known as pacing. Pacing will influence the level of uneasiness your audience will feel. Take the drawn-out scene for example. Your audience will feel anxious on what's to come. Take the rapid cuts from running example. Your audience will be frightened for the person running, knowing doom awaits them. It plays with the audience's sympathy and anxiety, which follows into the next topic. Tension. It's a broad prospect that makes up suspense. It's the cliffhanger before uncertain doom. It's the pacing and invasion of space. It is, in a sense, the audience's vulnerability. By making characters vulnerable, it would in turn make the audience vulnerable. Imagine this. A scientist is running and traps himself in a room where he thinks he's safe. You think he's safe too, until some sort of slime seeps through the crevice. Now this scientist is trapped as they plead for help with no other means for escape. The duration of his pleas and useless means to get away, the pacing is long and drawn out, but not too long, just long enough to get you at the edge of your seat before his fate is concluded. That's the essence of tension. Other than these few tips, you might still want to add disturbing elements into your story. Let's discuss some exceptions that can still allow your story to be horrifying, but does not take over the premise of your story. When inputting jump scares, gore, and other disturbing imagery, there's no harm or foul in doing it at all. But it is important to learn how to keep scares or use them in crucial moments. This may involve body dimorphism, unsettling locations, and disturbing imagery. First off, let's talk about jump scares. When using jump scares, it can give a sense of relief or make you jump from your seat. Confusing, I know. Here's the interesting thing. The jump scare doesn't even have to be scary at all. It could be just a broom behind a curtain that the protagonist is mistaken as a person. It's a well-known and best tactic when heightening anxiety into your audience. However, be careful using this tactic too much, because the audience may begin to feel numb to it and will no longer enjoy the story for what it is. Now the next big topic, body dimorphism and disturbing imagery. Many types of media use this, such as zombie movies and video games. The purpose of using this imagery is to invoke discomfort and uneasiness. Some examples would be Doki Doki Literature Club, where human eyes replace the usual cartoon anime eyes, and The Walton Files, where normal human faces morph and elongate into something else entirely, making it unnatural and disturbing. Lastly, unsettling locations influence the mood and tone of the world for the audience to also explore. It can also play into the viewer's limited visibility as stated earlier. These locations would be locations you usually wouldn't go to by yourself, or it can be a location you're familiar with, but now there are threats within the vicinity. Locations can include compact spaces such as stairwells and rooms, unfamiliar locations such as a stranger's home, spaces that induce a phobia such as a room full of spiders, or the middle of nowhere with no other humans in sight. This tactic is not an unfamiliar topic and almost always unavoidable, so it's possible to constantly use the dusty old basement with a monster in it. So long as it matches your story, of course. Now, that is all the tips and tactics I can think of and share. I hope you all enjoyed it, and if you thought this was helpful in any way, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Don't forget to leave a comment down below to share any thoughts you might have, what you agree or disagree with, and maybe any other topics I might have missed. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Bye bye!